Hello best learners, this is Mustafa here at Learn with the Best, and we've got a great video for you today. We're going to be discussing the 12th law of power, using selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. First, I'm going to define this law for you, and then we'll be going over an example from the book, followed by a horrible memory from my past. And then finally, we will wrap up with an analysis on how you can wield this power in your own life. Here's the law. One sincere and honest move will cover over dozens of dishonest ones. Open-hearted gestures of honesty and generosity bring down the guard of even the most suspicious people. Once your selective honesty opens a hole in their armor, you can deceive and manipulate them at will. A timely gift, a Trojan horse perhaps, will serve the same purpose. Once upon a time, in the early 1900s, a well-dressed man went to see Capone, who was the most feared gangster of his time. The man introduced himself as Lustig, and he told Capone that if Capone gave him $50,000, he could double it. So Capone looked the man over, and something about him seemed different. He had a classy style, and so Capone decided that he would play along. He handed the money over and told him to double it in 60 days. So, Lustig put the money into a safety deposit box in Chicago and went to other cities where he had several other schemes in progress. The $50K remained in the bank untouched, and Lustig made no efforts in doubling it. 60 days later, he came back to Chicago and took the money out. He went over to Capone, put on his sad face, and said, "Please accept my profound regrets, Mr. Capone. I'm sorry to report the plan was a failure. I failed." At this point, Capone was thinking about which part of the river he was going to throw the man's body in, but Lustig reached into his pocket and took out the $50K. "Here, sir, is your money, to the penny. Again, my apologies. I am so embarrassed things didn't work out the way I thought they would. I would have loved to double your money. God knows I really need it. But the plan just did not materialize." So Capone sagged back in his chair, confused. "I know you're a con man," said Capone. "I knew it the moment you walked in here. I expected either $100,000 or nothing at all. But this, getting my money back, well, I don't know what to say." "Again, my apologies, Mr. Capone," Lustig said, beginning to leave. "My God, you're honest," shouted Capone. "If you're on the spot, here's $5 to help you along." He counted $5,000 out of the 50 and handed it to the man. Lustig seemed stunned. He bowed deeply, said his thanks, and left, taking the money. The $5,000 was what the man had been after all along. Everyone builds up defenses against deceivers, liars, and crooks through experience and wisdom. If you understand this well, you can bring those defenses down by strategizing through an act of apparent sincerity and honesty. The essence of deception is distraction. Distracting the person you want to deceive gives you time and space to do something that they will not notice. An act of apparent kindness, an act of apparent generosity, an act of apparent honesty. These are all very powerful forms of distraction because they disarm other people's suspicions. In ancient China, this was called giving before you take. The giving makes it difficult for the other person to notice the taking. It is a strategy with infinite practical uses. Just taking something from someone outright is dangerous. The victim will likely plot revenge. It's also dangerous to simply ask for what you need, because unless the other person sees some gain in it for themselves, they will come to resent your neediness. So learn to give before you take. It softens the ground and takes the bite out of a future request. The giving can take many forms: an actual gift, a generous act, or a kind favor. Now let's look at an example from my past where my dad was deceived and manipulated. But before we do that, I want to shamelessly plug my course into the middle of this video. If you want to transform yourself from a lamb to a lion, then check out my course pinned in the top comment below. I teach you the importance of time and how you can manage your time in order to achieve your dreams and your life purpose. Let's be honest here, the majority of the population are sheep, taking part in the 9-to-5 rat race of life, not enjoying their work and never fulfilling or even finding their life purpose. You go to work, you come home, you eat a pizza, you watch the newest TV show, and day by day, month by month, decade by decade, your life passes you by and you have never achieved your dreams. So let me be your sensei. I will give you the tools that you need for success, but keep in mind, this is not a magic pill and it will require hard work on your part. You have to follow what I teach and you have to put in the work on yourself on a daily basis. So if you're interested, then again, check out my course pinned in the top comment below. Alright, back to the video. Once upon a time, when I was around 5 years old or so, my mom, my dad, my little brother, and I would all go to the yearly air and water shows. We lived in Chicago, and the Air Force and the Navy would throw these awesome shows every year. It would be like a festival with all sorts of different vendors selling delicious foods and all sorts of other things from all over the world. As little kids, these events were something that my brother and I really enjoyed and looked forward to every year, and so our parents would take us to those events. So one year we were leaving the show and headed back towards our car. These shows would end in the middle of the day, usually around 3 p.m. And as we were leaving, we came across these vendors and they were selling these old things called camcorders. And camcorders were these like old dinosaur age things from the 90s where you could put in a cassette tape and record home movies. Now, of course, you can do all of that in 4K or 8K or whatever on your little iPhone. But back then, it was brand new technology. So these vendors are set up at this festival with a nice little table and a business sign with business cards, dressed up in suits, looking all spiffy, and they started talking to my dad, promoting their Sony camcorders. They were telling him how great it would be to record events like the Air and Water Show with the family and that we would be able to enjoy these homemade movies forever. My dad was hesitant because his BS meter must have been on, but these con men used selective honesty and generosity to disarm their victim. They say to my dad, "Hey look, we only have 3 more of these left. This morning when we set up our booth, we came with 500. We've been selling these for $300 all day long. And it looks like you have such a loving family. Your kids are so cute. We really want you to be able to cherish these memories forever. So I'll tell you what, I'll sell you one at a discount for $200. Unfortunately, my dad believed the con man and paid him $200. And back then, $200 was a lot of money, not like it is now. And so we were given a Sony camcorder box that was completely sealed up. And when we got home and opened the box, there was an actual brick inside of the box. My dad was pissed. He picked up a baseball bat and went to confront those guys while my mom called the police. When my dad got there, the con men were gone. The police department said that they would send a cop out, but nothing ever materialized from their investigation. They told us to be more careful next time and that we should have opened the box in front of the conmen before we bought the camcorder. And in retrospect, yes, it's easy to say that, but here's the point of the story. We were fooled because when we were in the moment, everything looked so convincing. Their setup, their business suits, the camcorders that they were demonstrating with, and the sealed up boxes that had the Sony logos on them. They had set up the scene perfectly. Okay, so what did we learn from this law? You can use selective honesty and generosity to get what you want. You can wield this law as a strategic weapon for either good or evil. You be the judge, depending on your situation and what you want the desired outcome to be. If you've been sold a TV, for example, on a Black Friday sale, you've been duped. All Black Friday TVs are specifically made for Black Friday sales. Manufacturers use less than ideal parts and specs to make the TVs for as cheap as they possibly can. They will have a slightly different SKU or model number than the regularly sold models for the regular price. I always try to warn people about this because I used to work in retail at a large electronics store, and I understand the deception. If you're a guy taking a girl out on a first date and you pay for her meal, this is you subconsciously using this law. Understand this law like your life depends on it, because so much of society operates by this law. It's like the code in the Matrix. It's been there all along, but you haven't been able to see it. And now that you do see it, you will never be able to unsee it. Understand the law and add it to your toolbox. Alright, I think we should end the video here. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you learned something new. If you like my YouTube content and you want to support me and the creation of more content, then please check out my Patreon link pinned in the top comment below. I upload new videos every Friday for my Patreon subscribers that go deeper into my life regarding the 48 laws. These videos are a bit more raw and untamed than my usual videos here on YouTube. And if you're a patron of mine already, then I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's people like you that truly make all of this even possible in the first place. I hope you enjoyed this animated video on Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Law number 12, use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. And remember, you only retain about 10% of what you learned the first time around. So watch this video through a few times and then come back to it again and again in order to really understand and ingrain all of the material into your mind. Thanks, and I'll see you next time for Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, Law number 13.